The places exist, the witnesses exist, the records exist, but the explanations don't. Abandoned towns, vanishing people, and calls that came from the dead. These are real American cases, still unsolved. If you think American curses are just folklore, wait until you hear about a place locals still warn people to avoid. Welcome to Dudley Town, the village many call the Black Hole of the Connecticut Mountains. Deep in the forests of northwestern Connecticut lies an area officially known as Dark Entry Forest, but most people know it by another name, Dudley Town, an abandoned 18th century settlement surrounded by more than 2 centuries of chilling legends. The documented history is simple. The village was real. Founded in the mid-1700s, it slowly declined throughout the 1800s due to crop failures, disease, harsh winters, and its isolated location in the mountains. But the stories say something very different. According to local folklore passed down for generations, the Dudley family carried a curse from England to the New World, and because of it, strange tragedies supposedly began happening in the village. Unexplained disappearances, settlers driven to sudden madness, and nights so unnaturally quiet that people claimed the forest itself was holding its breath. One of the most repeated tales involves adventurer Horace Greeley's associate, Dr. William Clark, often confused with Harry Peck, who built a vacation home near the old site in the early 1900s. Clark later reported hearing voices in the woods and seeing figures where no one should have been. His wife did die tragically, a documented event, and the legend of the Dudley Town curse grew even stronger. Today, the area is strictly restricted, and the owners frequently warn visitors. The forest is disorienting, GPS fails, and help can be far away. Legends of this cursed village continue to grow, and the less information available about Dudley Town, the darker its reputation becomes. If you think people can't simply vanish without a trace in modern America, the Bennington Triangle will change your mind. This is a real region in southwestern Vermont where between 1945 and 1950, several people disappeared under circumstances so strange that investigators still can't explain them. It began with the disappearance of 74-year-old Mitty Rivers in 1945. He was an experienced woodsman who knew the trails better than anyone. But during a hunting trip, he walked ahead of his group, turned a corner on the path, and was never seen again. A year later, 18-year-old college student Paula Weldon went hiking along the Long Trail. Multiple witnesses saw her walking calmly into the forest. No distress, no danger, but she never came out. Massive search teams, helicopters, and even the FBI found nothing. Then came more disappearances. James Tedford, a war veteran, vanished from a bus moving through the area. Passengers claimed he was in his seat moments before. 8-year-old Paul Jepson disappeared near his family's truck, and dogs lost his scent as if it simply stopped. And Frida Langer, who vanished while hiking with a friend. Her body was found months later in an area already searched many times, with no explanation for how it had appeared there. Locals blame the mountains, the weather, or simple human error. Others believe the region has something deeply wrong beneath the surface, strange sounds, missing time, and an eerie feeling that the woods are watching. To this day, not a single disappearance has been fully explained. If you don't believe a single college dorm room can terrify an entire campus, you've never heard of room 428 at Ohio University. This room in Wilson Hall became so notorious that the university eventually sealed it shut, and what happened inside is still debated today. The story begins in the 1970s when students reported loud bangs, moving furniture, and violent shaking that came from the room even when no one lived there. At first, campus staff dismissed it as pranks or old building noise, until things escalated. Residents claimed they saw a dark figure standing in the corner, watching them at night. Others woke up with books scattered, drawers pulled open, or objects thrown across the room. One student said he watched his desk chair slowly rotate toward him on its own. But the event that changed everything happened when a student living in room 428 died under unusual circumstances. Details were never fully released, but according to campus rumor, the student had been studying occult material and strange symbols were found in the room. After the death, activity intensified. Campus security reported seeing a shadow pacing behind the window when the room was empty. A resident advisor said he heard screams coming from inside, only to unlock the door and find complete silence. Finally, after multiple reports from students, staff, and even police, Ohio University made a rare decision. Room 428 was permanently closed, sealed, and taken out of use. Today, the door is locked, covered, and officially off-limits, but students still say that late at night you can sometimes hear knocking from inside, even though no one has lived there for decades. For decades, astronomers and radio operators have whispered about something unusual circling Earth, an object that shouldn't be there, yet refuses to disappear. This mystery is known as the Black Knight Artifact. The story gained attention in the late 1950s when both American and Soviet tracking stations detected an unidentified object in polar orbit, a flight path no satellite could achieve at the time. The first man-made satellite wouldn't reach such an orbit for years, yet something was already there, and it wasn't behaving like debris. Ham radio operators reported receiving strange signals believed to be coming from the object. One decoded pattern was interpreted as a star map pointing to the Epsilon Buddhist system, a detail that sparked endless speculation. In 1960, the U.S. Navy photographed a large, dark object drifting in an orbit inconsistent with any known missions. NASA later released additional images during the STS-88 mission, showing a black, irregular object that looked nothing like a satellite panel or space junk. Official explanations claimed it was thermal insulation, but the shape, mass, and trajectory didn't match. What makes the Black Knight so unsettling is its persistence. It appears, disappears, changes orbit, reappears years later as if under control. Radio operators have documented erratic movements that seem deliberate. Whether it's a misunderstood piece of early space debris or something far older, the Black Knight artifact remains one of the most debated anomalies in orbital history. The unsettling part? No agency has ever claimed ownership, and no one has successfully tracked it long enough to explain what it really is. Imagine a place where the ground beneath your feet is alive, breathing heat, exhaling toxic smoke, and hiding pockets of fire that have been burning for more than 6 decades. This is not a post-apocalyptic movie set. This is Centralia, Pennsylvania. In 1962, a routine attempt to clean up a local landfill went terribly wrong. Firefighters set the trash pile on fire, not realizing it sat directly above an abandoned coal mine. The flames slipped through a hidden opening, igniting a massive underground coal seam. And once these mines caught fire, they created a blaze no one could stop. Residents soon noticed strange things: the ground cracking open, releasing sulfurous smoke, basements filling with carbon monoxide, roads buckling from the heat. In 1981, a young boy nearly died when a sinkhole suddenly opened beneath him. He was pulled to safety seconds before he would have disappeared into a fiery pit. By the 1990s, the government declared Centralia uninhabitable. Most buildings were demolished, streets were removed from maps, and the remaining residents were forced to relocate. Today, no more than a handful of people still live there, refusing to leave the town that's been erased from official records. Below Centralia, the coal fire still rages. It moves slowly, about 75 feet per year, and experts estimate it could keep burning for another 200 years, turning the ghost town into a silent, smoldering scar in the heart of Pennsylvania. Centralia isn't abandoned because it died. It's abandoned because it's still alive, burning, shifting, breathing fire. If you ever wanted to see a place where the laws of nature seem to simply stop working, this is it. Deep inside Minnesota's Judge C.R. Magny State Park lies one of the strangest geological mysteries in North America, the Devil's Kettle. At first glance, it looks like a normal waterfall until it suddenly splits into two. One stream continues its journey down the Brule River, but the other half? It disappears completely. The water drops into a giant rock hollow known as the Kettle and never comes out anywhere downstream. For decades, researchers, hikers, and geologists tried everything to solve the mystery. They threw logs, sticks, ping pong balls, GPS devices. Nothing was ever recovered. It was as if the earth itself swallowed the river whole. Some believed the water traveled through a massive underground lava tube. Others suggested a hidden network of fractures leading miles away from the visible river. A few went as far as to claim it was a literal bottomless pit. What makes it even creepier is the scale. An estimated 200 to 300 gallons of water per second vanish into the kettle, constantly, every hour, every day, every year. And despite countless tests, no one has ever found the exact exit point. Officially, geologists today believe the water eventually rejoins the river through cracks in the rock, but no experiment has ever confirmed it with physical evidence. No tracker, no dye, no object has ever been seen emerging. So, the Devil's Kettle remains what it has always been, a place where nature keeps a secret, a hole that drinks a river without giving anything back. They call it the Flying Dutchman of the Great Lakes, and even today, more than a century later, sailors still swear they've seen its silhouette drifting silently across the water. This is the story of the SS Bannockburn, a steel freighter that vanished without leaving a single trace. The Bannockburn left Port Arthur, Ontario on November 21, 1902, carrying a full load of wheat across Lake Superior. The weather was rough, but nothing unusual for late November. The ship was considered sturdy, modern, and fully capable of handling the lake's infamous storms. But only a few hours into its journey, it simply disappeared. The last confirmed sighting came from the crew of another freighter who reported seeing the Bannockburn struggling through heavy waves before it vanished into a wall of snow. No distress call, no wreckage, no bodies, not even floating cargo. Over the next weeks, search teams combed the shoreline and the lake, but Lake Superior kept it secret. The mystery deepened when sailors began reporting something chilling, a phantom freighter matching the exact size and outline of the Bannockburn, appearing during storms. Some said it approached dangerously close before fading into the fog. Others claimed its ghostly shape crossed their path without generating a single ripple. To this day, the Bannockburn has never been found. The lake is over 1,300 feet deep in some areas, and many believe the ship lies intact somewhere in the freezing darkness. Others insist it never left the surface, that its ghost still sails the lake, warning other ships of the same fate. Lake Superior is known for taking vessels, but only one has become a legend: the SS Bannockburn, the ghost of the Great Lakes. On the night of March 13, 1997, thousands of people across Arizona witnessed something so large, so silent, and so impossible to explain that it remains one of the most credible UFO events in American history. It began just after 7:30 p.m. when a massive V-shaped formation of lights drifted across the sky, slow, deliberate, and completely silent. Witnesses described it as a mile wide, blocking out the stars, and moving like a single solid object. This wasn't a handful of people imagining things. Entire neighborhoods saw it. Airline pilots reported it. Police officers radioed it in. Families stood on their porches watching the lights pass overhead in complete disbelief. Some said they felt an unnatural calm wash over them, as if the object emitted a strange, quiet pressure in the air. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the craft vanished. 2 hours later, a second event occurred, a line of glowing orbs hovering over Phoenix, perfectly still before fading out one by one. The military offered explanations, flares, aircraft, misidentification, but none matched the eyewitness reports of a colossal, structured craft moving with inhuman precision. Arizona's governor mocked the event at first, until 10 years later when he admitted publicly that he himself saw the massive V-shaped craft and could not explain what it was. His exact words, "It was unlike anything I've ever seen." To this day, no government agency has provided a satisfying explanation. No aircraft of that size and silence is known to exist, and every March 13th, people in Phoenix still look up, wondering if the lights will return. In the late 1970s, residents of several small towns in Massachusetts began reporting something deeply unsettling. At night, people claimed they saw groups of figures standing silently near forests, roads, and abandoned buildings. They wore identical pale masks with wide, frozen smiles carved into them. At first, police dismissed the reports as pranks, but the sightings kept spreading. Different towns, different witnesses, same masks. Several people said the figures never spoke. They didn't chase anyone, they simply stood there, watching. In some cases, witnesses reported that when headlights hit the figures, they slowly turned their heads in unison and then vanished into the woods. The phenomenon became known locally as the Laughing Mask Cult. No group ever claimed responsibility and no official organization was identified, but the rumors grew darker. Some witnesses claimed they followed the figures into the forest only to experience disorientation, sudden nausea, or lost time. Others said the masks were later found hanging from trees near old stone foundations, places connected to forgotten settlements from the colonial era. Police investigations never uncovered suspects. No arrests were made, no explanations were offered. By the early 1980s, the sightings abruptly stopped. To this day, no one knows who wore the masks or why. Some believe it was an underground cult, others think it was a coordinated psychological experiment, and some locals insist it wasn't human at all. Even now, people hiking in certain forests of Massachusetts report an uneasy feeling as if they're being watched, and sometimes, deep in the trees, they claim to see a pale shape, smiling. In 1979, several families in Chicago reported something deeply disturbing. Their phones started ringing, and the callers were officially dead. The calls began shortly after funerals. When people answered, they heard familiar voices, spouses, parents, close relatives. The voices sounded calm, confused, sometimes frightened. In most cases, the callers said only a few words before the line went silent. One of the best documented cases involved a woman who received repeated calls from her deceased mother. The voice recognized personal details, used nicknames no one else knew, and even responded to questions before abruptly disconnecting. Phone company technicians investigated the incidents. They found no crossed lines, no technical faults, and no evidence of prank calls. In several cases, calls were traced to numbers that were no longer in service or linked to disconnected hospital lines. Police initially suspected hoaxes, but the pattern made no sense. The families were unrelated. The calls happened at different times, different locations, and always involved recently deceased individuals. What made the situation worse was this: the calls stopped suddenly, without explanation, and never resumed. No one was ever charged. No technological cause was officially identified. Some experts suggested grief-induced auditory hallucinations. Others blamed rare electrical anomalies. But skeptics struggled to explain how multiple people independently described the same experience. To this day, the Chicago phone call cases remain one of the most unsettling, unexplained phenomena in American urban history, not because of what was heard, but because of who was speaking. Which strange place or unexplained event do you know about? Write it in the comments. Your story might become the next episode. And if you want more real mysteries, subscribe.